get going. We're looking at good digital record keeping. So, of course, now we are all digital. We're talking about our handheld devices that we're going to be using on a day-to-day basis. Once I've given the presentation on the good principles of record keeping, we're going to go onto the system and just have a look at sort of, the reports that are available. Now, I'll be going onto the care home site. We've obviously got two sites. We've got a sort of residential setting environment, and we've also got the home care. So the principles apply for both scenarios, both types of service. So, for example, if you're in the home care environment doing visits, then you'll start your visit on your device, and we're talking about the reports that you're writing at the end of your visit. And then in the care home environment, we're sort of looking at the numerous reports that you might write over the day, for example, and when you've had an interaction with somebody. So, as I say, we'll look at the care home environment at the end, but the principles are the same for whatever service you're in, whether it's home care and you're writing about the visit that you've been on, or whether it's care home and you're writing about the interactions that you've done. So either on your sort of general note at the end of your visit or at the end of the day at the care home, or whether we're looking at observation charts that you might do when you do a home care visit, or observations that you might do when you're in the care home environment. So it's the same principles. Okay, so let's get started then. So we look at just an overview of what we're going to look at today. Got that little random bullet point that's come in there. We're going to look at what we mean by record keeping. So what we're sort of referring to today. We are going to be looking at the Nursing and Midwifery Council Code. So for those that have attended this webinar today who are nurses, this is the code that you'll be familiar with, and we're going to just go over the principles of good record keeping that are in that code. So for the non-nurses that are attending the webinar today, these principles also apply as well. But I will also, after I've looked at the code and what that specifies about good record keeping, I'll also look at the Social Care Institute for Excellence recommendations. So SCIE, you might have heard of that before, SCIE. There is a website, SCIE website, that's very useful for sort of tips and things about care. And we're going to look at their tips on the importance of recording, sort of top tips that they've got. And we'll have a quick look as well at a couple of examples of good versus bad record keeping. Again, this applies for the home care environment and also the care home environment. So both sort of all different types of service, really. It's all the same principles. And then we'll look at some of the benefits of digital recording, which is obviously what we're doing now, because we're no longer sort of using paper. So what is record keeping? What are we referring to today? So we're referring to service user records today. So not staff records or anything. We're referring to service user records, service user reports, any interactions that we've had with the service user that we need to record. That's what we're going to focus on today. And we're going to specifically be looking at recording and care and support effectively after it's been given. And that could obviously be if you're in a care home via the web page or via your app. And if you're in the home care environment, that'll be via your app when you do your visit as well. Okay. So firstly, we will look at the Nursing and Midwifery Council Code, the NMC. So the NMC has got a code of conduct for all registered nurses. And they've got a section in the code on how to keep good records. And as I say, this does apply as well for non-nurses too. It's the same sort of principles. It can be used throughout the care service by all members of staff, these principles, whether nursing or whether in a sort of supportive role. So the code is called Professional Standards of Practice and Behaviour for Nurses, Midwives and Nursing Associates. Let's have a quick look at the question here. Jo Walton. Hi, Jo. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. So the NMC code is called Professional Standards of Practice and Behaviour for Nurses, Midwives and Nursing Associates. Quite a mouthful, but that's what it's called. So it's got a section on record keeping, and that's what we're going to look at now. The section on record keeping is section 10. And the title of that section is Keep that you need to keep clear and accurate records that are relevant to your practice, so relevant to your place of work. Okay. And under section 10, there's various pointers. So in section 10.1, you should complete your records at the time of care delivery. Okay. So once you've done an interaction with somebody, or once you've finished a visit with somebody in their home, you need to complete your records as soon as possible after that event, after the visit or after the interaction with that person. So as soon as possible after it occurred. And that's important to do rather than leave it till later. We know in the care environment, whatever care environment you're working in, it's very busy at times and you can't always do your note taking straight away, and that's okay, but it needs to be done as soon as possible at the time of the care being given. So that's point 10.1. Point 10.2 is that you should identify any actions identify or action any risks or problems. So in your report writing, when you're sort of doing a summary of your visit or a summary of that person's day, you should include anything that's arisen with that person, problem-wise or risk-wise, and just put details of, what you've done about it, steps you've taken to deal with it. And that just means that colleagues that then also use the records and look at the notes for that person can see exactly what's been done. So they've got all the information they need. So it's about giving them detailed information about that person and about the interaction that you've had. Point 10.3 is that records need to be completed accurately. So your notes always need to be completed accurately. So in other words, no falsification. So they need to be truthful, need to be recording actually what happened, and obviously not falsifying in any way. Point 10.4 is that they need to be attributed to yourself. So in other words, you shouldn't be recording on behalf of somebody else. It should be you that's writing that note, okay? And of course, when it was paper, you would sign it, date it, time it, etc. But now we're using the digital records, the devices, and we're logging in. That will be our login. It'll automatically record that it was us. So we're, covering that quite nicely because we're logged in as ourselves, and it will time and date stamp it as well. So you shouldn't be recording on behalf of someone else. It needs to be you that's doing the recording. Carry on to the next slide. 10.5 is that we need to keep notes secure and keep records secure. And we need to take all the steps that we can to make sure that records are kept securely. We also need to make sure that we collect, treat, and store those records appropriately. So, for example, when we're on the devices and we've logged in, that means it's like an open file. So on that device, when you're logging in, that is an open file. That is access to someone's records, either the person that you're visiting in their home or in the people's records in the care home environment. So it's really important that you are aware of that. And that when you write your notes, you obviously log in, you write your notes, and then once you've finished your note writing, you need to log out again. And that's just important to understand that so that you're just sort of remembering that it's an open set of documents really. So you shouldn't be leaving your devices on the side for anyone else to be able to access because it's highly confidential information that you've got on that device when you've logged in. So it's just making sure that you're keeping those records, i.e. that device secure, and you're logging in and logging out as and when. And you need to take all the steps to make sure that that does happen and it's kept securely on the device, and you log out when you need to. So the Social Care Institute for Excellence, SCI, they also have a section on the importance of recording. So it kind of reiterates what we've just gone through there with the Nursing and Midwifery Council principles. But it's just a sort of set of guidance and tips that SCI have also produced as well. So I thought I'd just go through those too for any sort of non-nurses, but as I say, the nursing principles apply to sort of non-nurses as well. So when it comes to the importance of recording, We're going to look at a few points as to why that is. So it supports good care. So good recording supports good care. So it's integral. It's a really important part of social care. It's a really important part of your care delivery that you're actually recording what you're doing. So it shouldn't be just seen as a bit of an admin burden that you need to go through as quickly as possible. It is central to good person-centered support. Recording is vital, and it supports good care and support. Everyone can see what's been going on with that person. It's also a legal requirement, and could be used as evidence. So it is part of a staff member's professional duty to record well and to record appropriately and to record everything that they've done for that person. Should records be called up by a sort of legal system for any reason or other, they should be able to look back and see exactly what was done, get a good story and a good history of what's happened with that particular person. So although without wanting to frighten people, it's always good to have that in your mind. I have that in my mind as a nurse when I'm doing my recording, that, I want to make sure this is a really thorough record that I'm writing about this person, telling people what they need to know. Knowing that possibly, potentially, this could be, pulled up at a later date by sort of legal system, and used as evidence as well. So I want to make sure that I record accurately exactly what I've done for that person. Recording also promotes continuity of care. So good records and good notes enable other health and social care professionals to read those and see what's been going on. So it's a good form of communication to other healthcare professionals and social care professionals as well. So it makes sure that, there's a good continuity of care. We can see what's being done. We can see what needs to be done, and all that type of thing. Because it identifies themes and challenges potentially. So it's a tool to help identify patterns or themes. So that's why we need to be thorough in our note taking and report writing, because we can sort of see patterns of things happening, and sort of take action to do something about those. We can see changes and challenges and themes in a person's life if we do really good note taking or report writing. We're all accountable for the notes that we write. So we're accountable to the people that use the services, to the service users themselves. We're accountable to them for keeping good notes. We're accountable to our managers and our seniors. We're accountable to the inspection process and audits that take place. And as we said before, our notes can be used as evidence for courts, for complaints, for investigations, which we would hope wouldn't happen, but as we know, that could be a case sometimes. So we need to make sure that we know that we're accountable for the reports that we're writing, and do them thoroughly for that reason as well. And also it enhances your practice. So it enhances, where you're sort of working and how you get on in your work life and the support that you offer people. If you can make good recording a central part of your work, it's going to help you and it's going to help your colleagues too. So it's all about clarity, and improving communications. So with the next slide, the SCI, Social Care Institute for Excellence, has created or suggest an acronym called Partnership for top tips for good record keeping. So as I say, you'll get this recording as well with the webinar. You'll get this sent to you, so you'll have a copy of this, the slides. But if we look now at what that means, this acronym, we'll look at all the different individual letters and see what they mean in terms of their top tips. So first of all, P for person-centered. So support should be centered around the service user, as we know. Good records have the potential to shape the services that the person receives and the support that they receive, and then, therefore, the life that they lead as well. So they need to be person-centered, based around that person. They need to be accurate. So you need to state accurately what's happening or what you believe to be happening. So in other words, not be vague. You need to be able to think that if someone was reading back my notes, would they understand what it was I was saying? So you need to be accurate wherever you can. So avoid being, vague, not really sort of making accurate statements means that someone could read it back and think, oh, what did she mean by that? It needs to be as accurate as possible. If we look at R, they need to be real. So in other words, we need to identify precisely what any issues are that we might have come across. They need to be timely. So as we said before, they need to be done as soon as possible, after the event, after the visit, or after the interaction with that person. So although it's tempting to sort of write your notes at a later time, given the pressures that we've got as care staff, we do need to do it as soon as possible. So although it might be tempting to not maybe do your notes at home when you've done your home care visit, or leave it till later in the shift and sort of catch up on your notes. That's actually not very good practice. So we do need to do them as soon as possible, because leaving a record incomplete or not doing a record, it could hamper your colleagues if they're working with the same person. So if they're sort of trying to catch up and see what's been done for that person so far today, for example, and that note hasn't been filled in, then, it would be difficult to know what's been happening with that person. It can cause a problem for the service user themselves, as well as the staff trying to find out what's been happening. So that's just important to make them as timely as possible. Okay. And also, if that, say for example, someone was in the care home, or in the home care environment, and suddenly the health deteriorated, needed to go into hospital, and maybe the hospital contacted the home or the service to say what's been going on with this person, and the notes haven't been filled in for that day, that could be really detrimental to that person's well-being if we don't really know what's been going on with them. So they need to be as timely as possible. And as we say, it's not always possible to do them exactly at that time. If there's something else going on, we know that, but we need to do it as soon as possible. We need to write in sort of clear, plain English, no jargon. So no sort of shorthand rather, terms or colloquialisms, or things that might not make sense to other people, because it can make records incomprehensible. So not just to the person that we're supporting, but also to our colleagues and managers. So we need to make sure that we're using appropriate terms, in appropriate English, plain English, really. So not sort of shorthand abbreviations, because sometimes people might not understand. So where possible, you should write things in full, Um, I mean, I think of things like UTI, we sort of write UTI, don't we? Most people understand what that means, a urinary tract infection, you know. But really, you should be writing things in full where possible, because we need to be mindful of the fact that someone might not necessarily understand what that means. And if the service user is accessing their notes, they might not really understand what that means as well. So it needs to be in as plain English as possible, so that a variety of people who have access to those notes can understand exactly what you meant. So the E in partnership is evidence-based. So you need to make sure that you can back up and substantiate what you're saying in a record. So, if you're stating a fact, make sure it's in a sort of an accurate fact. If you're stating an opinion on something, make sure you can back it up with evidence about what you've seen or what you've heard. Don't just make statements, sort of guesswork statements. We need to be backing it up with evidence about what we've seen, what we've observed in somebody. Cannot just make sort of vague statements, but really try and back it up with what we mean, evidence, in that note taking. The R is reading the previous record, or read previous record. So again, that means it's vital to make good records so that people looking back can read previous records and understand exactly what's been going on with that person that you're supporting. The S is succinct. So if you basically you need to be correct in what you're saying, be accurate in what you're saying. So if you're writing, detailed and factual reports, and you're maybe expressing your opinion, but you're giving evidence, you might feel it will take longer, but it's really important that you are succinct and you're writing exact factual statements. And again, in the long term, it's going to make things quicker and easier for you looking back at your notes, for other healthcare professionals, for other social care professionals looking back at your notes. It needs to be really clear, because if it's vaguely worded, if it's unclear what that note means, that is going to take much longer for when you're looking back at your notes. What did I mean then? Or a health or social care professional looking back, what did she mean by that? And then having to investigate further. It's going to cause people a lot of problems, really. So we need to be as sort of clear and succinct as possible. And just clear, really, clear notes so that we understand exactly what happened when we look back at those records. The H is for holistic. So we need to be sort of thinking about, rather than the practical things we've done for someone, it's important when we're doing our recording that we're presenting a sort of holistic picture of that individual. So holistic means the whole person. So looking at maybe how they felt, as well as sort of what happened factually, sort of thing, or physically with that person. We need to be sort of thinking about the whole person, how things affected them, for example. IT compliant. Well, of course, we are IT compliant because we are using devices that speak to the main web page. We're using a secure environment on Care Beans, so all our notes are, IT compliant, and we're sort of doing them appropriately on our app that we're using. And finally, the P is professional. So it's important to remember that the record is a really important document. The record, the report, whatever note it is you're recording, is representing yourself, it's representing your profession, it's representing the organisation that you work for, and most importantly, it's representing the service user that you're working with. So we need to make sure our notes are professional because we're responsible for them. It reflects on how we look, so we need to make sure they're professional, because other people will be reading those. So we need to write them properly. So what we'll do now, we'll just have a look and see if there's any questions on the chat. No, that's okay. So what we're going to look at now is just a couple of examples of good versus bad report writing, really. And again, this applies for whether you're writing a report after your home care visit, whether you're writing a report in the care home environment. It's about detail, facts, evidence, what we've done about something. If an issue was raised, what we did about it, rather than just vagueness. So let's just show you what I mean by that. So this is just an example of maybe doing a report on how someone was through the night. Actually, perhaps that cross should be at the top. We'll go to the cross first. So this is perhaps a poor example. Tom slept well. Doesn't really tell me much. You slept well. Okay, great. He slept well. That's good. But there might have been other things that happened that you need to record as well. So you just need to record evidence here. So I've just put Tom was check. How do we know he slept well? That could mean that I checked him once when he went to bed at 9, and then didn't check him again till next morning. This tells me a bit more detail. So he was checked hourly throughout the night, and he appeared to be sleeping. I've just put some extra information there, extra detail. He got up to use the toilet once and was given a blanket as he felt cold. That tells me much more than I need to know about this. Tom slept well. This is giving me evidence as to how I know this. Okay, so this is a bit more detail. It's going to help me a lot more. Okay, have a look at another one. So a sort of poor report would be Raj was aggressive towards Mary. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? What do we mean he was aggressive towards Mary? How's that going to help me when I look back? He was aggressive towards Mary. Did we do anything about that? What does that mean? He was aggressive towards Mary? Quite some negative undertones with this. doesn't really sort of help me too much. I'm going to have to do much more investigating to try and find out what's happened. Whereas if I look at this report up here, it gives me a bit more evidence, a bit more fact, a bit more detail. I can read this and know exactly what's gone on rather than going back and having to work out what this means. So here I've put Raj became distressed when the service user walked into the room and took his snack. He raised his voice at Mary, the support worker. She sat with him, offered him reassurance, and his snack was replaced and he became less distressed. I've also cross-referenced here that I've done an incident record in his behaviour chart, for example. So this tells me exactly what I need to know, exactly what else I need to reference. And it's going to help me a lot more, say as the manager, looking back at someone's records, this is going to help me a lot more than this here, okay? And then let's look at a third one. We've got here, Mimi was moody and uncooperative. Well, again, what does that mean? Why? What did we do about it? Is she all right now? Is she not all right now? You know, what was the latest sort of thing? I'm gonna have to do a lot more investigating to find out what this means. There might be no other records about it, so I might need to go and find the carer that wrote it, find out what she meant by that. Whereas this gives me a lot more detail. Mimi appeared quite low this morning. She didn't want to get out of bed. She's very quiet. She chose to stay in bed, so I sat with her for 10 minutes. We talked about her worries and she said she felt much better. Also, this has got quite negative undertones in terms of the language that we're using, moody and uncooperative. Whereas this gives me a bit more explanation as to why she may have come across as perhaps moody and uncooperative. This is a sort of lot more sort of softer language, but it's giving me fact. It's telling me exactly what I need to know. Okay, so I hope that helps. Again, these might not be these will apply for all your report writing. So in the home care environment, at the end of your visit, for example, and also in the care home environment. So I hope that's helped. As I say, you'll get these slides as well, so you can see them. You can keep these. So now we're just going to look at the benefits of digital recording, because obviously we've converted now to using the app, using digital recording. We're not using paper anymore. So just some benefits really of digital recording. A few different things. So there's no more signature and date entries. So that's going to make things a lot easier because you don't have to sign your name, print your name, put the date, put the time. It's going to all be date stamped and timed for you, and it will be your login is your signature. So that will make things quicker when it comes to your report writing. With digital recording, we can set up reminders as well. So when actions are overdue or reports need to be written or interactions need to be done and therefore reports need to be written, we can set up reminders on the digital system. Your report writing will now be clear and legible. So whereas on paper it was handwritten, it could be quite challenging sometimes to read back someone's handwriting, especially if we're writing it in a rush. My handwriting goes from very neat to very untidy within seconds if I'm rushing. But if you're obviously typing it in to a digital system, then it's going to be clear and legible every single time. We also have on the, well, most of your devices will have, when you go to type in your report, you'll often have the little microphone, depending on what device you've got, but mostly nowadays you have a little microphone on there, so you can always speak into that microphone and it will transcribe it for you. So for those that might find it a bit difficult to type, a bit like one finger typers, texters or whatever, then you might find that useful. So it's a good thing to have a go at, see if you like using that way. And as always, just have a check through everything before you finally save it. Notes are easier to share nowadays. So as we said before, in your note writing, if you have identified any risks, you can share those. You can sort of in the care home, you can share that to a handover. They're easy to update. So your records can now be made on the go. So, in the olden days, as it were, we used to go to the office, we used to pull out the paper file in the person's home. We'd sort of sift through all the paperwork to find our report section that's a bit dogged. We'd then write our note in there, go and return the file, perhaps lock it away. But now we're going to have our devices on us, so we can do it on the go. So therefore it's going to be much quicker to do your timely reports because you're going to have your devices on you. Just a few more we'll look at a few more benefits of digital recording. You can pull off reports now. So all the reports that we're writing, they can be accumulated by sort of seniors on the main web page. So all our reports can be gathered into a report by our seniors, and they'll be able to look at those very easily. And because we'll have written really brilliant notes now, really factual, succinct, clear, legible notes, it's going to be really easy to look at that continuity of care. It's going to be really straightforward and simple to see what's been done for that person. So it's going to really help us in our reports. We can pull off care plan reports as well. We can pull off read reports for messages too. As we said before, it's mobile, so you can take your devices with you around the home or within the person's home, and very easy to access rather than lugging these hefty files, as we said. Most laptops or devices have got autocorrect on them as well, so you can it will suggest words for you. So that's often quite useful, isn't it, when you're sort of trying to type a word and then it will suggest the correct spelling, or identify typos. So I think everyone loves a bit of a spell check function on there, don't they? And also everything can just be done at a touch of a button now. So they're the benefits really of digital recording. Just going back into, when we do our really clear, legible records now, it's going to be much easier for seniors to do their audits and see what's being done when. They're going to get a much clearer picture of what's been going on with everybody because we're going to have really clear records. We're going to be able to gather data much easier because of our clear record keeping. We've got no paper files anymore, so we're not lugging paper files around the office that are hard to read, tatty, difficult to store. We've got our devices on us. And also we can do quick messaging with the digital system, so we can get messages sent to us from the web page down to our mobiles as well. So that's just quite useful with the digital recording. So I hope that's helped people in terms of the principles of good recording. And as I say, that can be for the care home or it can be for the home care environment. When you come to do your daily reports, that's what we need to be thinking about when we're writing as soon as possible, as soon as practicable. Clear, legible, succinct, accurate, fact-based, non-judgmental, providing evidence, nice and clear, so that we can look back, clearly see what we've done, and our colleagues can look back and clearly see what we've done. Okay, so I'm just going to go on to Care Beans Lodge now. So that's the care home environment, but as I say, it's the same for the sort of home visits as well. I'll just we sort of know what that looks like anyway, really, on the system. But let's just there you go. You can now record confidently and professionally. So if we just apply those principles whenever we're record keeping, we're going to do that. Do those really well. We'll be excellent record keepers. So we'll just pop onto the system. Or will we? Yes, there we go. So we're on Care Beans Lodge now. So obviously, if you're doing the home care, you'd have your devices on you, you'd have your visit, and we're talking about that little report box. So on your visits, you've got your tick list often about the things that you've done. Tick, tick, tick. You can tick away, but then also we're looking at the facts and the evidence that we also want to be putting in that report box as well, if anything, so that we can clearly see what's been done for that person today, any issues that have been raised or what have you. Also on the devices, you can access observation charts as well, and they all have comments boxes. So if you need to make any comments in there, it's thinking about them being clear, factual, and done as soon as possible after the interaction's been done. So if we just look at, like, for example, this is obviously the care home environment here, but if we just look at Sally, for example, there's a couple of ways we can do our report writing. So As with the visits, it's the same principle really. You'd click into the visit or the action that you've done, and you may have ticks of what you've done for that person that day, but it's this comments box where you're going to be writing your factual, evidence-based information into the system there. Okay. And then we can all look back at what we've done. Colleagues can look back at what we've done. It can be really clear. All right, so that's home care and care home. That's how you would write your sort of reports. And obviously on the care home side as well, we've got kind of general notes up here as well. With the home care, you'd put that on your visit report. But we've also got like a bit of a daily journal here for that particular person, as well as the sort of individual ones. And on the home care one, it will obviously just be your visit and any observations that you might have done on that visit. So I hope that helps people. Let me just see if there's any questions. Do feel free to put anything in the chat that you feel you might want to know about. I'm just going to show you got, care summaries as well. This is the same as the home care environment, really. You've got your sort of files for somebody and you've got like a care summary of what's been going on. So this is where you'd find your reports as well down here. I've not done much for Sally, I've just done a wait for her, but I would have all my, nice detailed notes down here as well that I can see. So we can pull up reports and things for that too. So I hope that's helped with your record writing and report keeping, report taking. Do feel free to ask any questions if you like. There we go, I've got one here. Clear and simple explanation, great. Oh, thanks, Nicola. That's very encouraging, thank you. Yeah, I hope that's helped people then. So as I say, I'll kind of hang on for a bit longer just in case anyone has got any questions or whatever, but do drop me a line if you want to, lucy@carebeans.co.uk, so Lucy @carebeans.co.uk. If you want to ask any questions after this, you might not want to ask on here, that's absolutely fine. You can always drop me an email and ask any questions. Any non-customers that would like a demo of the system, feel free to have a look at the system. I can show you, that's fine. I can get someone to give you a demo. If any current customers have got any queries or they're sort of thinking, well, how do I do this, that, or the other again, feel free to drop me a line and I will offer as much help as I can for you. It doesn't look like anyone's got any questions for this session, so that's fine. But yeah, like I say, if there is something that you might think of afterwards, just drop me a line. Email me and I can respond to you. And yeah, keep your eye on the website for the next upcoming webinars. I think we might have, I think it's confusion next month actually. Just finishing that one off. So I think we've got confusion, what that looks like, what that means for a service user at the end of October. And I think we've got on GDPR November, then a break for Christmas, December. That'll come up soon, won't it? And then in the new year, we should have a sort of a bit more of a lineup of what's going on over the year so you can register and, that type of thing if you want to join or if you've got any colleagues that want to join. Okay, take care. And you too, Nicola. Thanks very much for joining. Right, so it doesn't look like there's any questions. So I'm going to stop sharing there. I'm going to say goodbye. I'll just pop my video back on. So thanks for joining, everybody. Video working? I can't see myself. Oh, yes, I can. Right, so thanks for joining. It was nice to see you all. Thanks for attending. And like I say, you'll get your email link next week. Keep an eye. It'll be the email that you use to register for this, where you'll get a CPD certificate, resource pack, and access to the webinar as well, the recording. Okay, lovely. Thanks, everyone, then. I shall say goodbye and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.